Before we start today's episode, I'm going to ask one thing and one thing only of you. I realize that 95% of you who watch my podcast aren't subscribed. So I ask, if any of these stories have ever impacted you or touched you, please subscribe and support this channel. And in return, I commit to bringing you better episodes, more guests, more stories, and more Echale ganas in your life. So, subscribe today to Echale Podcast, and now let's continue with today's episode. Bienvenidos a otro capítulo de Echale Podcast. Yo soy Jose Quintero. I'm very excited today because one of the things that I love to talk about is I love to talk about entrepreneurship, and I love to bring on entrepreneurs, people who are literally killing it in the business world. And I'm so excited to be talking to Jess and Carlos, the creators of Sabo, the card game. ¿Cómo andan, chicos? How are you guys doing?
Good. Thank you for having us. I know this has been a long time waiting, and it finally came.
I know.
Yeah,
So.
I know. Bien chido. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, like Jess said, I feel like we've been planning it for a long time, but I think we've been really excited to actually come down, sit down, and talk to you, and like dedicating the time to do it. So yeah,
This is my first sit down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is
Like
the
for
first
me,
one.
like this is like professional.
Yeah.
Wait, but you guys have done podcasts before, right?
Well, I think we've only done like 2 or 3, right? But this is like, I know people behind the camera can't see it, but it's like everything, like there's like 100 lights at you right now, so that's very different, like for me and Jess.
Well, don't get nervous because this is just a plática entre amigos. But I really wanted to talk to you guys because I feel like what you guys have created has been obviously years of dedication and work. So it's not an overnight success, and I think that's what a lot of people see. They see the game, they see you guys playing it on social media, on TikTok, and they're like, wow, that's so cool how they come up with it. I'm sure they're doing so well. But the whole planning aspect of it. So obviously, the essence of Echale Podcast is to echarle ganas, to keep going. And I feel like Sabo, the game, is a clear example of, Latinos taking up space and being present. How did the idea come about?
Do you want to give your POV?
You can
POV, I love that.
Okay. Because our POVs are a little different. Because when Carlos came to me with the idea, right, more so in terms of like, hey, I see that, I'm talking to your grandma more. How do we come up? I feel like I want to come up with a game, but I just don't know what. Like there was something in him that I saw that there was a fire, right? That he's like, we need to come up with something because it was coming out of COVID. It was still, we were still wearing face masks here and there, but it was more so, how do we get people more within the household, more reunited, do more rather than sit around, like what we were doing during COVID time, scrolling. So then he was like, hey, I'm trying to like learn more Spanish with your grandma. What if we make a Spanish card game? And he's like, but, testing my Spanish, because with our friends, we were always, it was funny because during COVID, we were all be like, well, let's see cómo se dice esto, cómo se dice aquello. Or we would go, like Carlos always tells this story because we always see the blimp when we would go down the freeway. I forgot what the freeway is.
The
but
405.
The 405.
Go to your blimp.
And then we would always tell our friends like, hey, cómo se dice blimp? And everyone would be like, I don't know.
Oh my God, ¿cómo se dice blimp?
So during that time, we were like, okay, but what else can we incorporate into this card game, right? Because then it's just flashcards at that point, right? Just asking ourselves, ¿cómo se dice this? So then during that time, we're like, well, let's include our culture. Like, what trivia do we know? What were our parents asking us growing up? What we can incorporate. And then we came up with challenge cards also, which are the chancla cards in the game. It's a little bit more of like, okay, let's get the family friends moving. What can we incorporate in there that, can be a little bit of a reto for them, right? And then, so then we're like, okay, let's put all this down on paper. Like, let's start creating it. But for me, it was always like, we work our 9 to 5s. How are we going to do this on the side? And how are we really going to get started? And at the time, we were living with my brother was living with us. He's actually our graphic designer. He went to Cal Poly, got his bachelor's in graphic design. And we basically told him like, hey, we want to create this card game. We have this idea, but we don't know how to execute it. We have it in our minds, but we don't know how to put it into words of what it could look like, right? So we basically gave him the whole spiel of what it is, and he's like, okay, let me take all this information back, and I'll come back with you guys, sit down, show you guys what I think it should look like. And he basically gave us a whole PowerPoint.
Oh my god!
Like, a professional.
I need to hire him. Wait, does he do side gigs too?
Yeah, he's a
Okay, cool.
freelancer. Yeah.
Freelance.
Yeah, and then he actually sent us a PowerPoint. He went through it and he's like, these are the colors. This is why the color should be this way. This is why the font should be this way. The details, everything. And because of him, I feel like it was the why we got started and why it kind of propelled us and gave us that momentum, and we started getting excited because it was something, you know, tangible that we could actually see for the first time, and you know what the design would look like, and we kind of went on it, designed it a little bit more, and you know, gave our feels, and yeah, it finally came to life. And yeah, if it wasn't for that, I feel like I would have been like, well, I don't know where to start. It's just an idea. Like, I'm not going to do it.
That's interesting. Carlos, I want to know your POV because I have so many questions for both of you.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a really good summary. But like, I think my POV was like, growing up, my mom was always like, tienes que aprender inglés, because she was a housekeeper and she really needed to talk to her bosses and she really wanted to be able to talk to my teachers. And because of that, right, I really did lose my Spanish language. There wasn't a huge emphasis because there was such a big drive to learn English, right, and to try to be successful in the United States. And because of that, right, that happened. And then you go on to high school and you definitely lose it there. You could maybe like reach a peak if you take like AP Spanish or something. But right after that, I go to college and then I majored in microbiology. Nothing to do with Spanish.
Okay.
And there's hardly any time to take any additional classes, language classes, stuff like that, travel abroad. There's no time for that, especially for science majors. And so I lost it, right? Like completely. I never went back home after I moved out of the house for college, right?
What school did you go to?
I went to UCR, so UC Riverside, yeah. Yeah, super
San
cool.
Bernardino right here.
Hey.
So IE peeps.
Exactly, the IE, go IE. But yeah, so, in college, I was like, okay, I really did lose that. And then I went on to start my career. And I think that was a point in my life when me and Jess were there at the house after COVID or during COVID. And I was really thinking to myself, I really felt disconnected with my Latino roots. And this is to no one's fault but my own, right? Because maybe I wasn't taking enough time to like go do, things that have to do with my culture or go learn about my culture or spend more time with my family, right? A lot of my family's busy. They work a lot. And so because of that, I really felt like I disconnected. And then when living with Jess's parents, it was really like testing my Spanish knowledge. And I was like, oh man, I really, really do not know Spanish. I need to catch up because if we're going to be living together, how am I going to ask for things, or how am I going to express myself, or how am I going to be able to help them understand what is going on in the house, right? Even like explaining something small, like, like the AC isn't working, right? Stuff like that. And so from there, me and Jess started talking, and we're like, I'm definitely an Sabo kid. I need to start talking to Jess, like, ¿cómo se dice this? ¿Cómo se dice that? And so, that's how the idea kind of came to be. And, after COVID, I also felt like this drive to do something else, right?
Yeah.
We were working our regular 9-to-5s, and we were very fortunate to have a work from home job. So we were working remote. But that meant that after 5 p.m., I was really just like on the couch, not doing anything. It was a lot of like binge watching Netflix. And I really felt like, man, I could do more with my life. I felt like I could do a little bit more. At the same time, start learning more about my culture and start feeling more connected to my Latino roots, my Spanish language, and feel incredibly proud to be Mexican.
Yeah. Did you feel like it was important, Jess, as obviously he's your partner, like him having a communication line with your parents? And did you push him into learning Spanish, or was it something like,
Well, when I would hear him speak, it's kind of, I think we've talked about this before too, where a lot of people that don't feel confident in speaking Spanish, they have like this, I don't know what it is. It's not an accent, but it's like a childish tone where you're just like, like they get like put back where they're like, oh, I don't know, I don't feel confident. And
insecurity.
And then I'm like, and it's just like, and you notice it. So obviously my parents understand English, but they don't speak it at all. And then so it's all Spanish in the household. And so when I would see Carlos struggle, I was like, no, you obviously have to learn now.
So
exactly. We had to definitely push him. My grandma was always telling him, hey, ¿cómo se dice? Yeah, because it's just like Carlos I could see in their eyes, and my little brother's this way too, because I'm an older sister. I have 3 younger brothers, and as it goes down the line, right, like even my youngest, like you could see it in their eyes where they want to say so much more because they want to share everything with my parents and my grandma, but they just can't.
That's so true, because I mean, I'm the eldest of 3, and I can definitely see it down the line. Like with my youngest brother, obviously he's arguing or he's trying to prove a point to my mom, but because of the lack of language or knowledge that he knows in that language, it frustrates him, and then obviously he can't get his point across. So it seems like he's like incompetent to have that conversation to a certain extent, and I'm like, I can see that frustration. So I can see where that comes from. Did you either of you have entrepreneurial spirits when you were young?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I definitely did.
Sure.
My mom was always my mom and my grandma were always trying to instill like, like business. And my mom like never really worked a regular job. She was always just doing like jobs that she could just pick up, right? So for a moment she was selling gold, and for a moment, like everyone, she was selling Avon, doing that type of stuff. And so I really did learn salesmanship from her. And so then I took that, and I think in middle school is when I started like selling chips, right? Selling chips and Gatorade. And that was like the easiest thing to do, because, like I could just buy a big old bag of chips, right? Take some Gatorade. It was crazy because in middle school I used to sell frozen Gatorades because we used to have PE, and I used to upsell them like crazy. I think like a bottle of Gatorade back in the day was like 50 cents, I think. You could buy like 10 for like something, right? Yeah. Super cheap. And I used to freeze them, because then by the time I got to school and by the time it was lunch period, they were still really cold, but I needed to keep them in the fridge. So I asked this teacher, hey, can I keep these Gatorades in your fridge until lunchtime and I could pick them up? And he's like, oh yeah, that's no problem, but I gotta take one. And I was like, okay, that's my cost of goods, my cost of service. But yeah, I did that in middle school. I kept selling chips in high school, but it was funny though, because I think towards high school, I grew up really poor. But there was also a point where I was like, I don't really need money, because I don't really need to buy stuff. And so there would literally be days where I would be like, oh, it's free hot Cheeto day. If you see me, just hit me up. I'll give you a free back. Yeah, free product. But then that led to repeat customers, right?
That's true.
Yeah, because they'd be like, hey, is today free hot Cheeto day? Oh, no, today I'm selling, bro. And then they'd buy it, right? But then it's like, cool, but I've already made that connection, and kind of like you connect them.
Damn. Yeah, for sure. You would have been like, hey, I also brought in extra cheese for like 25 cents. I would have been like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was like the business aspect, right? And so I always knew I kind of wanted to do something just like following what my mom did, right, in terms of salesmanship. But yeah, that was my childhood.
Yeah, I mean, my grandma was always a hustler, like same as every mom back in the day. My grandma definitely selling gold, Avon, Mary Kay, Los Toperes, like everything. Going to people's homes and just having the product out there. To this day, she still sells Avon.
Oh yeah,
she still has her clientas again.
She has like the booklets.
Yeah. She still orders it. She calls them now instead of like the big giant books that they used to have and put the orders in. We would she would sit us down. She'd be like, okay, ordename el producto, and then she'd give us a number. We'd be like looking at the catalog, be like, okay, got it.
Did she give like whole presentations still? Or?
No.
Because I was gonna be like, girl, put some TikTok shop on her.
Well, that's what I love about Jess's grandma though, is like she does it for like the love of connecting with her clients still, right? Because as everyone knows, right, there's not that much money to be made from Avon, right? The profit margins are so small, but she just loves like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to this person's house today, to go sell this or go show her this new stuff
or deliver,
right? And so that's how they do it, right? Like that's kind of like the way they keep in touch, So instead of just calling them up, she'll go over, they'll talk and all that stuff. So that's great. I love that.
Jess, you went to school too. What did you major in?
I majored in neuroscience.
Oh my god.
So I was in the same. I went to UC Riverside too. We were in the same first year classes.
Wait, what year did you graduate?
2015.
Oh, I graduated 2014, so we probably, because I was always at UCR as well. We
okay.
probably
for sure cross paths.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting because I feel like as Latinos, our parents are always, well, they kind of instill like, obviously poverty is almost synonymous with our culture because we don't grow up with so much richness or generational wealth here in the United States. And when we get to college, it's like, okay, become a lawyer, become a doctor, become something in medicine. That's going to provide you, some economic success. Entrepreneurship, even though it's seen within hustling, it's not really instilled as a career. like, was that the same case for you guys wanting to become doctors?
Oh, well, yeah.
Or surgeons?
Yeah, that's
No,
a fact,
yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
for
yeah.
me, being the oldest, and always being told you have to set an example for your brothers. Obviously, in my mind, I wanted to be a doctor. Going in pre-med, first year, and yeah, I mean, down the line, you start. Obviously, it's hard. It's really hard, and congrats to all those people that are being nurses, doctors, lawyers, everything, because it takes so much time. And I felt like for me, as I continued my college career, I was thinking, I'm like, am I going to spend this much time in school if I really need to provide for my family right away after graduating? Especially having 3 younger brothers, I took on that role of being a third parent. And sometimes now, and during that time, still being a parent to my parents, because I had to listen to their problems, and I had to be their mediator basically as the oldest daughter. And my grandma always telling me like, hey, tus hermanos esto, your parents this, and it's like, okay, now I'm a parent for everyone. So then
And your grandma has all the tea for you.
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
No, definitely. And yeah, so it's just like, okay, well, I felt it wasn't my path, and down the line I was like, yeah, this is not what I want to do, and how do I, become successful right away, to be able to provide for my family. And that was like the mentality going in. Yes, I wanted to be a doctor, but there's no time for us. Like for me, I felt like there was no time. And yeah, so I mean, afterwards it was out the door, but I'm really grateful that Carlos too, like we were in school together, and he kind of led me down the path where I was like, okay, like we could, kind of pivot and do something within our career, within our majors, but, do something different. But it was just that mentality that I always had growing up. I had to be a provider. I had to be a parent. I had to look out for everyone. And yeah, I mean, there was no room for fun, basically. It was just study and work, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I think that's very valid. I think looking back, right, like you're right, a lot of parents will associate like high salary careers in the medical field, right, as such as a doctor or becoming a lawyer. But I think, because we did our work, right? We would go volunteer, we would go to open houses, we would do all that stuff, and that's where we kind of learned the cost of going to school, right? And we were like, wow, like, even if you're making this much money, like your loan payments are going to be such a huge amount. Like I still owe student loans, don't get me wrong.
Same.
But like the cost of going to become a doctor and continuing your education, like you're going to be in debt for a long time. And so that's where I kind of like learned that, like, yes, you can get rich becoming a doctor, but it also kind of helps if you're coming from a little bit of generational wealth, because then you're starting off with at least some money, or maybe you won't have to take the full amount of loans, right? And so you might be able to start off your career with actual, making less payments, right, towards your education that you did. And then therefore you might become, a little bit richer faster, right? But for people that are coming with no generational wealth, very like bootstraps, and their parents are helping them get by, I think that's where the kind of misconception is, right? And I again, like I'm super like proud of everyone who has gone down that career, right, and chosen to become a doctor, because I think a lot of people also do it for the love of caring for people, which is amazing. But for me, that's when I kind of knew, right, when I graduated, I was like, oh yeah, for sure, like even if I even if I got accepted, which is still incredibly difficult to do, I need to start making money fast, because I want to become successful, right, start my career and build it up. And I think me and Jess both saw that, and so that's how we kind of supported one another and like trusting our vision, right? Like, hey mom, we'll be able to become successful, it's fine.
So 2015 you guys graduate from UCR. Do you go and live with Jess and her family right away, or do you
No, we basically, Carlos stayed in Riverside for a bit. I moved back home because we were having financial issues, and I basically, during that time, my dad lost our home, so he filed for bankruptcy, and then I had to kind of figure out where we were going to move next. So we were all living in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. It was me, my parents, my grandma, and my 3 younger brothers. So we're all of us.
6, 7.
Yeah. So my parents were living in the living room. I was with my grandma in one room, and then all my 3 brothers were in another room. And so I started off. I forgot what I was doing at the time. I think I was I was doing city year. So it's basically, we would get a little grant for the month, but we would basically be with students. And I was with third graders, and I was just, alongside the teacher as like an aide. And yeah, I was doing that for a while, visiting Carlos still in Riverside. And then eventually we moved to Pomona. Or we stayed out there.
We moved around a lot.
Yeah, we moved around here and there, knowing that my parents were okay. It was okay for us, but we were all still in that apartment, right? And I felt bad because I was like that's where we would see, because we were like, we need to help our parents some way somehow to get them out of this. It was just building, going, getting a new job, like building up what we were making, and eventually we moved to downtown LA, and we were there for a little bit until COVID hit.
And then that's when, we stayed in downtown LA for a little while, right? But then we noticed, like, man, we really can't go out and do stuff. And so that's when we started, I think one day we went to go visit Jess's parents in the OC, and then we came across a new construction site where they're building new homes, and I was like, hey, we should try to buy one, And so that whole year was just like saving money.
And it was 2020.
It was 2020.
The home prices, I'm trying to buy a home right now, and it is horrible out there.
The home price and the interest rate was amazing. It did take a lot of work, right, to save up for the year, but I think everything just landed in the right moment. And so what happened was, we were in downtown LA, saw that construction site. We're like, okay, let's try to save money so that we can move Jess's parents and us in there, so we could all save money together. So we did that, and then we moved to Camarillo. We just rented like a 1-bedroom from a whole house, and that's how we saved up money, like right away, right? We were not paying that much money in rent. At the same time, the lease at Jess's parents' place was coming up due, and so we were like, perfect, we'll be able to move right in. And so that's when we purchased the home. It's a townhome, and then we moved everybody in. We lived together for another 2 years together, and at the same time, everybody was contributing towards la hipoteca. And then so all that money came together. We saved a bunch of money, and then that's when I proposed to Jess, and we had been saving up money, and so in lieu of a wedding, we were like, let's buy our own place. And so me and Jess took the money that we had been saving from living together in the townhome, and we went and bought a condo. And so now, right, Jess's parents now are able to live there comfortably, renting from us, and then now we have our own place because we got eloped instead of having a wedding.
That's so amazing. And I just want to go ahead and reiterate to everybody, we're talking to the creators of Yo Sabo, the card game, where we're going to talk about the we already talked a little bit about, but just so many people know the sacrifices that go into becoming an entrepreneur, the sacrifices that one has to do, especially as Latino, trying to help their family thrive and survive. And that's exactly what you have done. And it is a story worth telling, and it's a story worth mentioning. And I'm so happy to have gotten to know that part. So fast forward to 2020, you guys start figuring out, like, okay, well, we want to do something different. Your brother starts getting involved. Real quick parentheses, was graphic design like one of those majors that you're like, I don't know if you should do that? I don't know if you should do that.
I feel like, I don't know, now looking back, I was like, why was I an older sister like that?
Yeah, because I am too. Like, my brother was majoring in sociology, and I'm like, bro, eso no te va a dejar dinero. But
because in that moment in time, in my mind, I was telling myself, and I was telling them too, I was like, why did I have to be the one to step up, basically, and you guys are over here doing graphic design? Like, what are you gonna do after? Like, how are you gonna make money? But now looking back at that, it's just like, well, I'm glad that they were able to follow their dreams, right? And that I was able to, follow my path, and they're following theirs. And who am I to tell them what to do? Again, I'm not their parent. But at the end of the day, it was always like, do something that you love, but, make sure that obviously, like, you just have to have the drive. Like, if you're gonna do that, you better give it your 110%, 200%, because I don't want it to be where you followed your dream, quote unquote, and then you're like, well, I don't want to do it anymore. Like, it better be, what you want to do for real. So they went in with that mentality, knowing that, hey, yes, I'm doing this, and I'm giving the opportunity, in a sense, where I can do this, right? Like, because my sister is gonna help me. And so I'm glad that I was able to be that for them. And both I have 3 younger brothers, right? So both of them graduated from, two of them graduated from Cal Poly Pomona. They're both graphic designers. They got their bachelor's. And then my little brother, he's at Cal State LA right now.
Oh, okay.
But he's doing, he started off as like, he's doing photography here on the side, and he's hustling. As a 21-year-old, he's like out on tours with his friends because they're all musicians. And he has that drive and that passion to be like, hey, yes, I'm doing this for my career, but I'm going to do more in college, which is it. And it motivates us now because it's giving us that drive. Is like, dang, he's 21. He's doing all of this stuff right now that I never had the courage to do. And yes, it was more so like, what are you going to do with that career? But at the end of the day, he's now motivating us and giving us that like drive and the goals that we want to do with Yo Sabo now. As entrepreneurs, as, you know, people that weren't creative, basically. We were all like, you know, science this, science that. But because of them and seeing how much they love it, we're like, oh, it's giving us that, you know, it's giving that push.
Yeah, I think it's like we have to give it to them, right? Like I think we had the same thought, right? Because I've known Jess for a long time, and so I've seen her brothers grow up, and so it's kind of been like, man, like I wonder like if they're gonna be able to make it with graphic design, right? Because you also don't want them to fail, right? Because it is a hard thing to do. But I also admire them a lot for going for their passion, right? And doing something they want, and kind of knowing that they're gonna have to adjust, right? Maybe they have to live below their means. Maybe they have to start managing their money better, right? Because you know, when you're a freelancer, right, you got to do that all on your own. Nobody's doing it for you, and so it takes a lot of courage to do that. And so I'm really proud of them. But I think Jess took on that big weight of like, my baby brothers are going into college, right? And but you know, they're not following the same path as I did, so therefore a lot of that weight is still going to be left on me. So even though, you know, like they all went to college, it's still like just I don't think we ever felt like we could take a break, right? Or try to follow something. And so I think, it takes a while,
The first edition of Yo Sabo, the card game, was launched in 2021? 22. So 2020, the pandemic. By 2021, were you guys already living in the townhome together?
I think, we had moved in
and
at the end
that's
of the
where
year.
the idea, like, oh, how long was that process between, okay, I have this idea, Carlos, Jess, or, you know, between both of you, and then presenting it to your younger brother? How long was that process until the first edition? And what were some of the challenges that you guys had?
I think it was so for sure, I think me and Jess had talked about it for maybe like a month, right? Maybe like going back and forth. And then after that, we kind of put our ideas together about like what it should represent, how we're trying to play, and the mechanics of the game, and kind of the requirements of it. And that probably took a little, like a month too. And then with Vic, right? Quick turnaround, but I think that whole process of going to Vic, hey Vic, present back to us, right? That probably took a month as well. So honestly, it probably just was like 3 months of planning, right? Like sitting down, like, hey, let's really sit down, let's figure out what we're gonna do. And then Vic, also again, incredibly helpful. He's the one that sourced the manufacturer for us.
Whoa.
So he's the one that went and like, you know, like who should we go with? And I think it's also because he knows like the keywords, right, for printing, right, where he's looking for how to describe the colors, right? That's really important. And so he really took it on himself. So I think we went from like December to like March, and then April is when we first got like the decks.
Did you get a demo, or did you already start? Okay, because I've heard a lot of people. We just had the founders of Globitos. I don't know if they we just had them on, and they said they sourced their stuff from China, and obviously a lot of that was, you know, communication. So they ordered about 5,000 units, and when they got here, they noticed that the units were defective because you know, the quality, not defective, the quality was just different.
Not there, right?
It wouldn't inflate with helium, so they're like, well, that was an investment that was lost.
You
guys actually ordered a demo, or prototype.
We ordered our first prototype, which is like a full green box, no branding whatsoever, but we were just checking for the box integrity and the card, like how the card felt, like the card stock. And then after that, once Vic put on the logo and the artwork on the box, we did another shipment of those. And then that's where we're like, okay, let's do it. Let's take some money from our savings and let's buy 500 units, right?
It was 500.
500
Wow.
units.
How much was the initial investment for those 2 units? And then how much was it for the 500 units?
I don't remember, but I think to start up, right, with everything, with paying Vic, with paying for all that stuff, I think we spent at least a solid like $10,000 to $15,000.
Okay, that's not bad for an initial investment.
Correct,
for a card game especially. And then what goes into your mind when you're like, oh my god, I have the units, like how do I start selling them? Do I just post on Instagram?
Yeah, that was kind of crazy at the time because I don't even know. Oh, well, at first we're definitely gonna use social media, so we started up the accounts, and during that time, that's when TikTok was kind of a thing. TikTok Shop didn't exist back in the day, so we're like, well, let's just start posting, and then whoever sees it sees it. But what we were trying to do mostly is how do we incorporate the game in a way that is not just on screen telling someone to, hey, buy my game, So it's just like, what do we do? Like, what marketing strategy can we use to really, make people wonder, oh, what do they have? Or like, what is that? Like, make people question, and that's kind of, we started posting on TikTok. We started posting more so on like what the business aspect was, like us packing, or, I don't know. I think we were making like, not skits, but we were like making like short comedy content where it's like with my grandma and Carlos, us in the garage, and that's how we kind of started posting initially. But Carlos was like, I don't care, we're gonna have to go street by like door to door just to he's like, I'm gonna go to the Swami, so like I don't care.
That's awesome that you guys have that spirit of like knocking on doors, or if we need to sell on Swami. Obviously you have that initial 500 units. You start posting on social media. Who's your first buyer? Do you remember?
Yes, it was my cousin Angie. She's always been a supporter. She was like, because we started posting to our friends first on our personal accounts. They're like, we're gonna start a business, and so our friends and my cousin, they were our first buyers, and we had a set group of friends that we initially played the game with first to kind of see how it would be, like trying to see it live. So even before we ordered, when we had the prototypes, we went with our friends and we're like, and then you even gave it to some friends, right? Like, here, take this game, play it.
Tell us how it went. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, so they were our first customers, but specifically my cousin Angie.
Wow. Okay. So then when was your first okay, so your cousin Angie, but when was your first order? Did you guys by the way, already have a website where people can go buy?
Yes.
Okay, that was also that was also part of the whole
the
startup and whatnot. But when was your first major order? You're like, oh shoot, this is a big order.
I think so we did our soft launch, right? And so we were able to get like our groups of friends that ordered it. And then after, it was crazy though, because it's hard, right? Because at one moment you have all this inventory, right? And I told Jess that we shouldn't worry about this stuff, because in any business where you have something you're selling, something tangible that you can hold, you're going to be in the red right off the bat, no matter your investment, right off the bat, you're going to be in the red. And so that's why I kept telling Jess, like, it's okay, like we'll sell them, we'll figure it out. And so we just kept doing our thing, right? And it was crazy because I'd be checking the website and be like, oh, we got one visitor today, like stuff like that. And we did that for like from the month of April up until May. And then that's when me and Jess were like, okay, we need to kind of like change how we film stuff. And we really need to, like Jess said, right, showcase how the product works rather than just showcasing the product itself. And so that's when we did our first street interview. We went to Disney's California Adventure. I have no clue like why we went there, because you got to pay to get in, right? Like, we were technically bothering people that paid to go somewhere, but
you're like right off.
It was still COVID too.
It was still COVID,
so we didn't want to bother people. We're like, distance and stuff.
And I had my mask. The original video has my mask, and then we went up to these two girls. It was Liz, and I forgot the other person's name, but her Insta's like Wicked Angel or something like that. Two of the best possible girls that we could have ever have picked to be part of like our first interview video, because they were just like full on Latino culture, loved supporting small business, and just that. So we interviewed them, right? We did the thing, just posted it, and it goes viral. Wow. And then that's when people like start questioning, like, oh, like what are they playing? Like what are they holding? And that's when the orders started to ramp up. And at the same time, during that month of like May, we had started to send PR packages out, right? Because we're like, how do other companies do it? Oh, well, they send PR packages. And so we sent one to We Are Me Too. Oh, yeah. And, like I just cold emailed them like, hey, we'd love to send you our game. It's based on Latino culture, stuff like that. And then I sent it to them and I kind of forgot about it. We went to Hawaii for a wedding, right? And then when we were coming back, they posted a video and it went viral. And then that's when we sold out our 500 units.
Yeah.
Oh
Like
my God.
right away.
Yeah.
And it was on my birthday, I remember. That
Yeah.
was like the best birthday present I could have ever
He was
gotten.
waking up, and I was looking at the phone, and I saw that we got tagged, and then I look at the video. I'm like, oh my gosh, Carlos! Like, look
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah,
Oh
and so
my
that
God.
like that was crazy. So June 14th, 2022, we sold out. I think within like the days, and then that's when I was like, oh crap, like we got to figure something out quick. We placed another emergency order with our manufacturer, and then it's still like the lead time is still like 3-4 weeks, right?
Wow.
But we did 1,000 units this time because we were like, just
You're
in
like,
case.
we got this.
Yeah, we got
this.
this. Just in case, just take the risk, right? Because it also comes out a little cheaper, right? More
Yeah,
bulk.
yeah.
And then Jess kept posting videos because she was like,
At
we got
this
it.
point, are you still in the red when you ordered the 1,000 units?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because we're doing double, and then like the cost of like the shipping supplies and all that stuff, trying to figure out. But at the same time, Jess was like, oh, I got to capitalize on this virality. And then she posted the videos that we did at the Dodger Stadium because we had gone to interview there too. Those went super viral too. And then it was crazy. And this is probably the best moment we had ever, like at the start. As those 1,000 units were heading to the United States, they sold out. So
Yeah.
right when they landed, they had to go out right away.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then that's when everyone, my mom, my dad, my grandma, my brothers were like, all right, we're all packing for like 5 hours like
I think I've
straight
seen
at
those
night.
videos.
Yeah.
At that point, do you make the decision to quit your job once you see
Ooh.
1,500 units or no?
No, I think quitting a job is crazy because you really have to plan it out, right? And I think if you're very successful at it, you could do it really well. And if like you try to figure out, well, how can I live by my means, right? While still living comfortably, because I say that because you also don't want to like change it so that you're only shopping at a discount store if that's really not what you like, right?
Yeah.
Or like the food that you eat, right? You also don't want to like affect your health, right? Because everybody could go to Jack in the Box and get $2 tacos, right, for super cheap and live off that, but that's gonna affect your health, right? And so at that moment, no, I think we were more focused on like, let's capitalize on this, right? And so I think that's when we made our first purchase of 5,000 units.
What?
And that was scary because at this point in time, I still hadn't opened up a business checking account. I still didn't have a business credit card.
You didn't have an LLC?
I had my LLC. That was the first thing I did. Yeah, luckily, right?
Yes. That way you can start writing stickers.
Yeah. That was the first one. But yeah, everything. So this was all going on my personal credit card, and it's crazy, right? Because that was an amazing year for my credit card points. But it's scary, right? Because at the same time, you're like, wow, this transaction for like $25,000 just went through, no problem.
No fraud.
No fraud call. Come on, guys. And it's scary, but yeah, we did the 5,000 units that year. And yeah, we just continued, and Jess really, I love Jess because she does all the editing. I don't edit.
The video editing?
Yeah, the video editing. Yeah.
Girl, that's tough.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
really
tell you
tough,
guys,
yeah.
editing. When I edit these clips for the podcast, I'm like, you guys,
I know.
because then I have to not just post on TikTok, it's on Instagram, on Facebook,
Yeah.
on YouTube Shorts.
Yeah, you're right. You have to do all of those, and so Jess took the lead on that. I'm mostly the face, right, on camera, but Jess is the one that's making these things go viral. She's making them so that your attention stays on the video, and so we just kept grinding on that, and yeah,
While working.
our regular 9 to 5.
Everyone was working. And then in the mornings, Carlos would go pack for 2 hours, super early in the morning.
7 to 9.
Take whatever he could to the post office, come back. We would work in the afternoons. We would go back to because at the time we were already living in our condo, and then it was like packing at nights until like maybe 10 p.m. We'd be like, all right, let's wrap it up, and then go to sleep, do it all over again the next day, and then it was like that for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like that for a long time.
Did you guys have to buy one of those machines that prints out stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The labels. Yeah, we had a whole assembly line. Eventually, we learned how to, who did what fastest and, kind of like work around stuff like that. It was in our garage, so we could only have like 2 tables, right? And then, learning how to like, again, what was the best way to pack the games, because at the time we were spending a little bit more on packaging supplies when we shouldn't have, and we started to like, okay, where in our process we started like looking at it, because we were at the time,
We were new.
we were
Yeah, we
new.
were
So we're
new.
like, let's look at their process. And then it's like, where are we just slowing down? What's taking up more time? Where can we
Yeah,
cut
supply
supplies?
chain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
supply chain, basically.
That's
yeah.
literally what had to happen, right? You're looking at every aspect of your process to try and improve it, because improving
Time
it
is
means
money.
more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, time is money. And so, yeah, I mean, I loved it because in the beginning it was just a few orders, right, a week. And so I would pack it like in these like really nice white Destructo boxes, and I would put a tape that said thank you on it, you know. But like
Yeah.
I could only do like 10 orders or like 20 orders an hour. That's really slow, you know. And then once we ramped it up, once we figured out, oh, we shouldn't use these boxes, they take too long to fold, stuff like
Too
that.
much money.
We ramped it, yeah, into way too much money.
Yeah.
Once we started ramping up, we were doing like, I don't know how many orders an hour, but it was a lot. I think we were packing almost like 500 orders an hour.
How many, after how many units did you say, I'm going to quit my job?
So
Did you have a magic number?
so for me, I love my job. I work in advertising and promotion, and so it's really fun, right? Because I get to engage with different people and follow like the regulations that kind of the FDA has put forth on pharmaceutical products. But for Jess, I always kind of knew that Jess wanted to quit her job. And so what we ended up doing was this year, starting in January, I think that's when we started talking. It was like, hey, last year was a really, really successful year. We closed almost $1 million in sales for your Sabo.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I think that if we want to take it to the next level, we need someone fully dedicated 100%. So me and Jess did our budgets. We were like, how much do we need to pay, and how much of a pay cut are you going to take, and can we still just sustain our life, right? And pay our mortgage and pay our utilities and take care of our dog. How do we do this? And so that's when we were like, okay, so Jess did her budget, and then we felt brave enough to be like, okay, let's take a chance. We have enough runway for Jess's salary, and so we decided to do that this year. Yeah.
So you quit. You're still working.
I'm still working. Yeah, I'm still working.
And then you still have, because you're under his insurance plan.
Yeah.
'Cause let me tell y'all, insurance is fucking expensive when you're an
Insurance is
entrepreneur.
expensive.
Yeah. So it was back and forth. I felt scared because, again, growing up with that mentality of being the provider for my family, it was scary because even the previous year, my dad had undergone spinal surgery.
Wow.
He had an abscess in two spots of his spine where, like, eventually
before we
knew what was wrong, he stopped walking.
Yeah.
Like, his legs, he lost like sensation in his legs. He couldn't like get up anymore, and it was literally during Thanksgiving. We took him to the emergency room. Well, my brother did at first. They're like, well, nothing seems wrong, like maybe it might be a UTI, I don't know. And they sent him home, and then literally the next 2 days he just could not walk anymore.
Yeah, and then he lost his bowels.
Yeah, like his sensation of control of his bowels. And so we rushed him to the ER, and we're like, there is something wrong. And so he couldn't even lay straight on his back anymore. Everything was hurting, and they were saying, you have an infection in your spine. We have to undergo emergency surgery. They believe it was because he didn't take care of a muela. He had a tooth infection that eventually infection spread. And it can happen. Like, you need to take care of your teeth, first of all.
You know what? I have heard that the root of most diseases or whatever is from your teeth.
Yeah.
Your mouth. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, so that infection spread to his back, his spine, and he underwent emergency surgery, and he stopped working for an entire year. And because of that, we had to shift and be like, okay, what do we do? Resources. So again, going back to just being scared, because like, if we're like our family's fallback, like, who's gonna be our fallback? And that's the scary thing when you have a business. Like, do we take the risk? Should we not? And and then in April of this year, we were like, okay, my dad's back in work. He finally went back to work in February, end of January, and he was fine after a while. My brother Vic took care of him. He's a trooper because he was there for his recovery. We would take him to PT. Like, we got him back walking because he had to relearn how to walk.
Yeah, he had to relearn,
And then, he had a nurse coming to drain his everything. So when we felt like everything was okay, and we just took that leap, and I was telling Carlos, I'm like, okay, I'm just like, let's just have an emergency fund just in case for anything, whoever happened. If hopefully not, like we're like
God
praying,
forbid.
yeah, that nothing happens to any of our family members. And yeah, we're just like, let's do it. And it's scary because you come. I was in corporate. Well, I was doing supplier quality, so I was again, it was for 8 years now. I think
we've
we
been
were
in
in our
our careers
careers
for a while.
Yeah.
So it was a scary thing. My coworkers were like, are you really gonna do this? And then they were like, actually, I want to quit too. Like, how do I start a business? Like, I have these ideas. Like, what should I do? And yeah, everyone was really supportive. Like, all of the upper leaders, like, they knew why I was quitting. They knew that I was leaving to run a business, or our business, basically. And yeah, so they were like, if you ever need to come back, we're here. But yeah, I feel like their support, and then just if I ever need to, I'll just jump back in. And I have the amount of years of experience that I did in my field. So, yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I feel like I could do this. And yeah, as long as Carlos had that like vision for me, he's like, I know you can do it. So that really motivated me to be like, okay, let me do this.
Let's talk about the business aspect real quick, because when you start a business, you have an idea. I think a lot of people get stuck on like, wow, I have this amazing idea, but there's a whole business supply chain behind it. When it comes down to like 2022, you guys launch. 2023, you have to do taxes. And you're just like, I don't know if you're very frugal on how you spend, or you're very like, well, I don't know what I can deduct. And then if you don't have a right CPA, you're just like, what do you mean I have to pay so much in taxes? I remember one year I had to pay like $7,000 in taxes, and I'm like, what? And then I went to my friend who was a CPA, and he's like, we can still do this, we could do this. And I'm like, okay. Wow.
Yeah. No, I think we're very fortunate because one of my friends, I think you know Saul, right? From
yes.
He connected me with his CPA that kind of handles like influencer stuff, bigger businesses, stuff like that. And so we got in touch because at that point in time, I was like, we really need to figure this stuff out because you have thousands of transactions going on, right? And so you really need somebody to sort through all of that stuff. And yeah, I got to that point where it was like, what can we deduct? What is going to be counted against the business if we start paying each other? Like, how do we count that as, right? And so, yeah, so when you're running a business, I think that's the biggest thing to consider because you also don't want those huge tax implications. And so you could always interview a couple CPAs, right? That way they understand your business, they understand what you're doing, your goals, and kind of what you do on a regular day-to-day basis, and then that really helps them figure out what can you deduct. But that was key for us, right? And then I think for anybody that perhaps doesn't have the money to afford a CPA, right, and their like business is on a lower scale, I would still try to look for free CPA courses or free CPA workshops because those do exist. A lot of places like LA County has like a lot of free workshops for that. So there's the OC actually, where you could talk to somebody, right, and then they could kind of brief you on like, well, this is usually what people deduct, stuff like that. And so, but you have to go out and do that, right?
What was the biggest surprise for both of you as to what you could deduct?
I think our transportation is a big one because when I was doing the whole drop-offs, like Jess had mentioned, right, that's every day. I was literally driving every day, picking it up from the garage, dropping it off at the post office every day. And so all of those miles can be deducted, right? And so we were taking advantage of that because that's a lot of driving. And so we were really surprised that like, okay, well, we could deduct that because we really weren't used to that, right? We've never driven for a business and we're not salesmen, right? They usually deduct their miles and all of that stuff. So that was great. And then
what about the renting or not renting, using your space?
So like
Yeah.
if you own a home or if you own your if you have a place, right, you can rent it out to your business. So like if you have an event, so we had our Friendsgiving, you know, where we were basically showcasing the product, inviting our friends, and kind of using it as like a way to connect with our clients, right? You could deduct that because you could rent it to yourself. You could have your business pay you, and I believe that you don't need to report the income that you get from your business.
The amount of parties that I've thrown for, like, you know, it's like I bring in people that I've interviewed in the past, or it's like, all right, you guys, like, let's have a get together. I want to plan. I want to get your guys' feedback and whatnot. And obviously have the minutes down. That's very important.
Exactly.
You can't just throw a party. You have to have like an agenda,
you
quote
have
unquote.
to have your goal and then, like what the party's intention for, and of course, like talk to your CPA. But that's how we speak it to ours, and it's crazy, right? You invoice yourself. yourself.
Yeah.
Which is cool. But yeah, that's something awesome that you could try to take advantage of. I forget there's a law or there's a verbiage associated to it. But yeah, that's a great one too. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask both of you this, but I'll start with you, Jess. Jess, what would you tell the 2015 Jess, that was gonna embark on this journey, being the eldest daughter, going through bankruptcy, dad having spinal surgery? So much has gone into your life, and now to see that you've done $1 million in sales last year, what would you tell that Jess?
Oh man, I would tell her to stop worrying about every little thing, every minute. I feel like I had so much like pent up anger and resentment, and again, like being the oldest and just telling my brothers, like, you guys have to do something more than this. But yeah, I would just tell her to literally just stop worrying. And I feel like that's such a little to me, I would be like, I'd brush it off. Like 2015 would be like, what do you mean? Like, we have to worry though. Like, how else are we gonna get through this? But it just feels like such a little thing to say, but in that moment for 2015 Jess, and I honestly I would brush it off. But for me now, is like, yeah, literally stop worrying. Live your life, because tomorrow, you don't know what tomorrow might bring. So I don't know. I feel like that's all I would say, because there's nothing more. It's just like, dude, like, wake up. Like, I would want to shake her and be like, stop it. Like, everything's gonna be okay. But when you're in those moments, everything's just like, you just look, everything's downhill, like, for yourself. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's what I would say.
Carlos, the 2015 Carlos, who literally saw Jess go through all this, but also wanting to reconnect with his culture and trying to figure out how he can feel like he belongs.
Yeah. I think I would tell myself to really put family first, right? At that moment, right? Like, I knew what I was doing, where I was like, I got to become successful, which means I got to take on these jobs, right? That will eventually lead to my career. But I also was not visiting my family a lot, right? And I kind of didn't really explain it to them, like, oh yeah, I'm doing this for the betterment, right? And I know we talked a lot about Justice Family, but like, for me, like, I definitely do still take care of my mom and my sister. I don't have a dad. I never met my dad growing up. And so for me, it's always been like, I gotta take care of my mom. And so I kind of recognize that I should have been spending more time with her, but also explaining to her kind of like my thought process, because it was always just me telling my mom like what I'm gonna do next versus explaining it, right? And that's what led to her confusion. Like, what? You're not doing this anymore? And it's like, trust, like, I got this. I could do this. And so I think I would tell him like, hey, just explain it, right? Like, be clear about your intentions, so that way they get the situation, right?
Were either of your parents in shock when you said, hey, this is how much we did in sales?
I haven't told my mom.
Yeah. Okay. Well, surprise.
I haven't even told my family either. My mom just found out I quit. But
just recently.
That's because she watched a video. She went back on Instagram recently, and she just found out. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like we don't really share a lot of this stuff, because for us, it's like redefining what success is for our family, and sometimes we don't tell them because we feel like that they might not understand it, or they might get worried. Like my God, they're like worriers, so I'm like, if I'm a worrier, I don't want to like tell them, and they're gonna get worried.
And I think there's also that misconception, right, where like we're very, like, when we do presentations, right, like, we'll say like, yes, we've broken like $1 million in sales, but at the same time, like, we don't have $1 million in the bank, right?
You guys have to understand, with those $1 million, it's also like you have to subtract, obviously, transportation. You have to subtract the graphic designer. You have to subtract the manufacturer, the actual card games. Those costs, those units, they're not like free.
All the fees, like the Amazon fees, like take away like almost 40%.
You know what? I heard about that. I heard that like it's better for you to sell through your website than through like Amazon. I have a finance book available on Amazon, everybody. And oh my God, like it is sold at like $17, but I get like $5. And I'm like, why Amazon? Why?
It's
Amazon's a tricky one.
And then like shipping, and people are like, why isn't this like $10.
Yeah.
I was like,
like,
well, we're not big.
I wish I could get free shipping.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I wish I could do that, but yeah, I think so. All of that, right? Like, I feel like it's a little bit harder to explain, but like, I think my mom does the typical thing where she's like, "Oh, are you still selling your game?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, mom, don't you worry about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Are
like,
you still
it's
doing
okay."
those little videos?
Yeah, you
Oh,
still
okay.
doing those little videos?
You're like, yeah, those little videos are, paying the rent. Let's talk about the second edition because I literally took a peek in this and I was like,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
it's what I thought it was. So you guys had your first launch in 2022. 2025. Say hello to Yo Sabo Segunda Edición. Wow. So did this already launch? Like, can people buy this? Or is this like, really?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon, TikTok Shop, our website.
How has TikTok Shop helped your business?
It's helped immensely. I think last year in particular was a really great thing. We were very fortunate where TikTok Shop reached out to us and hey, we want to showcase your Latino business,
Wow.
Latino owned business, and so they gave us opportunity to be part of like a couple events, and they also try to push your product. They try to like get you more involved with the whole thing, and so they've been very essential to our business. Yeah,
I love that, and I think TikTok Shop is the new QVC.
Yeah.
Where people are literally making money. Like I was talking to Globitos just a couple of weeks ago. They said they made $32,000 in one live stream.
Yeah.
In 1 month. In 1
Yeah,
month.
and that's
crazy.
great.
And it's like, wow, the amount of people that are buying off of TikTok Shop.
Yeah.
I remember I was still skeptical a couple months ago, and now it's like, oh yeah, I got it on TikTok Shop.
Yeah.
And I love that they're giving Amazon a run for their money.
Yeah.
So obviously I can't leave without playing, so I will let you grab
Okay.
this little stack, and then you guys can
little
ask me.
playlist.
I work in Spanish radio. I want to put myself on blast, and obviously, as the creators, you guys should know these.
I should.
Yeah.
So here's a little secret. So La Segunda Edición, right? It was a lot of Jess's manpower, woman power for that. She really led the drive for that. And so now this edition, same pricing, but now it has more cards, which means more new words, all new words, right? All new words, all new prueba times, all new challenges. So that way people are able to play for much longer, right?
Yeah.
We love a good game time. Long game night, even though the first edition, people were telling us that they don't even get through the deck during the first game night. So that's always great. But here's the secret. When me and Jess were creating the game, we were thinking of the words. I tried not to look at the translations because I like to be surprised. That way, when you look at me in videos and I look at the card, I'm like, oh man, this is how you translate it? Like, it's
I
crazy.
say this.
So if you do quiz me, Jess will probably get it.
Okay.
I will glaze Jess up. She is definitely a Yo Sabo kid.
I get it wrong.
Yeah. But for me, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm cooked.
Well, let's hope I'm not cooked. I've already played it with like a couple of people. Like I've played it with Caliuchis, Angel Aguilar,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
So I will continue to play it with artists. And at first, I remember I was like, but how do I play it with like my coworker Angelica Vale? You're like, well, tell her the thing in
In
Spanish,
Spanish.
and then she has to translate it in
Yeah.
English. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna do it. And she did express that she's gonna play this with her daughter.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, I'll start first because
Okay.
Oh, this is a prueba time. I want to como se dice.
Oh, yeah, they're on the bottom.
Okay, they're in the bottom.
They
All
might be
right,
on the
now
bottom.
Yeah.
I'm
I'll get
scared.
them in the. Okay, como se dice ticket?
Oh, okay. I had this one.
Yeah.
Boleto.
Boleto. Okay. All right, and then Jess, como se dice stroller?
Carriola.
Carriola. Perfect. Okay, my turn.
Okay.
Oh,
Do you want a word or you want prueba time?
either or.
Okay, prueba time. What does bayunco mean in El Salvador?
Bayunco?
Yeah.
I'm Mexican. I'm not Salvadorian.
But now we get to learn.
I know.
I'm glad in America.
Bayunco. Okay. If I think of bayunco, is that? Can you use it in a sentence?
Oh. Okay.
Oh. It's an adjective. It's to describe someone.
Oh,
So-
okay.
Entonces ese hombre es bien bayunco. Something like
He's
that. I
a
think.
drunk. A what?
No, it's not drunk either.
Oh, what is it?
Okay, so we have silly person. It's more like a silly person, like more
Oh,
playful
yeah,
person.
like a
Yeah,
playful
yeah, yeah,
person.
Esa persona es
Yeah.
muy bayunco. I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it
exactly.
to my coworker because she's a
And she'll
Salvadorian.
be like, "Where'd you learn that from?"
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Wait, yeah, tell
Don't
us.
trip,
I
don't
want
trip.
to know.
A ver, someone's for
Yeah.
real. All right, ¿cómo se dice squeezer? Jess.
Oh, Exprimidor.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like
Okay.
sometimes with some of the words I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it
I
right.
love that
Yeah.
first of all, I love that the penalty words are esprimido, sprayer, but there's a belt under there.
Yeah.
O sea,
Yeah,
te va
yeah.
dando el
So
cintarazo.
right, like a lot of times, like we have the penalty words and like we changed it up, right? Because we know some of the teachers use it in the classroom. So like if you say one of the penalty words on the cards, you know, like for me and Jess, that means you gotta take a shot, right? So one of us said that. But then like for teachers, they make it so that like if you say one of the penalty words, you can't guess anymore. So that way like everybody else could guess. And so now with this segunda edición, we also included some como se dice cards that have translations from other countries, from Spanish spoken
Like
across the world.
popote.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Because
it.
like we knew that there was kind of like this big need of people asking like, well, I say like this and like, I say like that, and so but we didn't want to make it too easy, right? Because you also don't want to put that many translations because at the end of the day, if you have all the translations, it's not gonna be fun, right?
Yeah.
Or you're not gonna learn.
They're like,
Yeah.
There's like 50
yeah,
translations.
literally, that's the thought process. And so it's like, come on, like let's make it fun like that.
All
But-
right, let's see Carlos.
Okay. What is it? What is it?
¿Cómo se dice splinter? I would have guessed it.
Zoom. Okay, so let me work backwards. Okay, so splinter goes into your finger, and sometimes it's wood. Herida de madera.
You know, I would have said espina.
Oh, espina?
No,
Okay.
but that's a penalty word.
Oh!
Astilla.
Yeah.
Astilla is the
Oh my
correct
God,
word.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Damn.
Yeah, no. I want a como se dice card if you have
Oh, grab
one.
them. We have the.
Oh.
We have prueba.
Oh, you want one? Here, let
Yeah.
me grab some of yours. All right.
Here, and then ask me
Oh,
two
that
more.
one.
Y creo que,
Yeah.
You're,
Okay.
come
Well,
on.
maybe he might know.
Okay. All right.
we
You
have
might know
some
this
here.
one. You're in this building. Okay. ¿Cómo se dice fire drill in Spanish?
Fire drill. Fire drill. Fire drill. Like a fire drill. No,
He's having a fire drill right now.
I am fire drill. Fire drill. Fire drill. Fire drill. No, vamos a tener una alarma de. No, fire drill. A ver, Juan, ¿cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice?
All right.
It's simulacro de
Ah.
incendio.
Simulacro.
That's
Wow,
right.
you would have said it was
Give him
earthquake.
another one. Give him another
Here, all right, here, give me
Oh,
this one. This
this
was a
one?
fun one. I love this one. right
Okay.
now.
Hopefully you didn't hear this one. ¿Cómo se dice handcuffs in Spanish?
Ay, las manillas? No. Pon las esposas.
Yeah.
Yeah, las esposas. I was like,
Ding, ding,
I was like las esposas. All right.
Oh, this is a hard one. I don't know, maybe.
Oh, go for it,
you're,
go
you're
for it.
active.
Okay.
You're active.
Oh yeah, you're active.
Yeah. ¿Cómo se dice hiking?
Hiking.
Yeah.
Bueno, si vas a la Ciudad de México, también le dicen hiking.
Let us know in the comments if that's true, guys.
I'm just kidding. Caminar.
That's a penalty word. I
Ooh.
added it.
Damn. So I would have been shot. 5, 4, 3, 2. No. No. I
No, se
don't-
le fue.
Se me fue.
Se le fue.
Okay, so we have senderismo.
Senderismo. Sendero es
Yeah.
camino. So, wow.
Yeah. So definitely, palabras más difíciles.
I love this.
We wanted a challenge. People have been asking for something new. People have said they want harder words, and we put
Yes.
more thought into the prueba times,
Uh-huh.
more thought into the chancla cards, and so you'll see this stuff. And so we think it's going to be really fun for the families. We've already had great feedback on it, and again, it's just mustajetas,
Yes.
mustajetas, and that's what people wanted. In the same box that you kind of recognize, there are very, very subtle changes. ¿Cómo se dice subtle in Spanish?
Sutil.
Yeah.
Ah. Muy
See, it was a
sutil.
quick one, right? But yeah, so we love the box.
Yeah.
Vic was
I
the
love it.
mastermind of the box.
I love
design.
that the first edition the cards were green.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
these are blue. So I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
Nice pop of color.
Yes, a ver.
Yeah.
Mis
But yeah.
cartitas, thank you. We're gonna play that tomorrow in the show.
And we also put some goodies in there for you. This is
Oh
the
my
first
God.
time that we've ever created Sabo branded like goodies, and so it's really exciting.
A pen. And then,
A little
okay,
koozie.
Yo Sabo.
The little koozie.
That's
Koozie.
awesome.
Yeah, ¿cómo se dice koozie?
¿Cómo se dice? Oh, wait, what is this?
It's
That's a little bag.
So
Yeah.
you can take
That-
it when you go hiking.
Sí, cuando me vaya a practicar el senderismo.
Senderismo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this. I will give them some ideas after this. I was about to say it. I was like, no, porque qué tal si lo copian?
Si lo
I know.
I know.
Trademark it.
have people tried to copy you guys?
Oh my
Oh.
god.
Really?
Especially on TikTok Shop.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's
okay.
there's like a mix of like stuff that's going on, which is another thing of your small business. Actually, me and Jess were just talking about this.
Like, do you guys have a patent on
Yeah,
this?
we have 2 trademarks associated to Sabo. So we have Sabo and our mascot that are both trademarked to us. And so
Like Yo Sabo the word?
yeah, Sabo
Okay.
the word, yeah, and then the mascot itself is trademark protected, and that's really important, right? Because as a small business, you don't want to lose money to counterfeits, right? And so it's very important to trademark, and it is an expensive process, right? We worked with a Legal Amiga, which is a great resource, that we went through her. But yeah, so there's a couple things, and this is probably good advice for small businesses. When people see a successful name that has been running up sales, right, they're going to try to copy it, whether that be through creating a product that might sound similar, or this is what's going on TikTok, they drop ship your product.
What does that mean?
So what will happen is that another person will create a listing with your pictures on it, try to pass it up as yours, and sell it for much cheaper than you, right? So our product is $20. They'll put it on TikTok for like $15, $12, right? That person, the consumer, will purchase it from them thinking that it's us. Then that person places the order with us. Then they ship it to them, right? So they never have a hand on the shipping process. They just order from us, right? They pay the money. The order goes out to the consumer. Then that person files a refund and return. They send us a package with not our product back. It's just like a random piece of
Like
trash.
a cardboard.
Piece of cardboard, stuff
So
like
then
that.
they get the refund for it, and
Yeah, and like it sucks, because like then we got to file a claim, we got to take time out of our day, we got to send pictures, evidence, and show them this. And so now that we know the whole IP process, right, intellectual property theft, so now we get to report those accounts and say, hey, that's not our product. That's one aspect. The other aspect is literally people printing out our game, the first edition in particular, and them putting it up. But it's crazy because I don't know what they're doing, because there's this one TikTok shop in particular that we've been like trying to take down for a while. But they literally spelled words wrong. There's words that are wrong in their thing, but we don't understand, like,
so they just went through another manufacturer,
Yes.
printed your exact same
Exactly.
box, cards,
Yes.
and tried to duplicate it or add.
it's like flimsy. You could tell that it's like
super
a
bad.
fake.
You can tell it's a fake. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, take care over there, especially if you're trying to launch a business. But Jess, Carlos, thank you so much for stopping by Echale Podcast. I mean, the intention of this podcast is to embrace and make sure to resaltar las historias latinas de los latinos aquí en los Estados Unidos, that we are a community of chingones and chingonas who come here to work and who are entrepreneurs providing jobs to many. So thank you for being an example of echándole ganas.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those kind words.
Remember,
Appreciate it.
redefine your success. You don't have to follow a path. Everyone's path is different. So if you have an idea, go for it. Don't be scared. And échale ganas.
Echale ganas.
Yes.
Bye.
Where can people find you? Real quick.
Oh, we're on. You can find us on our social media. It's Yosabo_the game, or our website yosabothegame.com. And you can find us on Amazon, TikTok Shop, and our website.
Yeah.
Again, yosabothegame.com.
That was Jess and Carlos. Yo Sabo the game. I'm going to ask one thing and one thing only of you. I realize that 95% of you who watch my podcast aren't subscribed. So I ask, if any of these stories have ever impacted you or touched you, please subscribe and support this channel. And in return, I commit to bringing you better episodes, more guests, more stories, and more Echale ganas in your life.